Ghana's decision to seek U.S. assistance in investigating a helicopter crash involving a Chinese-made aircraft rather than turning to China has raised complex issues about diplomacy, trust, technical capability, and geopolitical alignment. On August 6, 2025, Ghana was struck by tragedy as a helicopter crash claimed the lives of 8 individuals, including 2 cabinet ministers. The devastating incident plunged the nation and affected families into deep shock and mourning. Now, in the quest to uncover the cost of the crash, Ghana's Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has disclosed that government has officially invited U.S. forensic experts to assist with the ongoing investigation. He further stressed the importance of an independent probe, highlighting that while the Chinese manufacturers of the helicopter have the capacity to decode the aircraft black box and submit a report, Ghana seeks impartiality and transparency in determining the true cause of the accident. Now, Greg, you are in the House of Legislature, that is Parliament. From time to time, you bring us report stories that are coming from that House, serving in the interest of the good people of the country. I want us to talk about how this conversation actually, how it moves from the usual political or politics into the international relations arena, how it plays out in that space.
Right. Thank you once again for having me today. I think one of the first things every Ghanaian and everybody who is following this story should advert their mind to is the fact that Article 40 of the Ghanaian Constitution 1992 is quite clear that the government of Ghana must pursue its foreign policy, first of all, in the interest of the country,
right,
and to ensure that there's a just order when it comes to that avenue. And that is also deepened by Ghana's outlook when it comes to these things. We are friends to all, we are enemy to none. I think the Foreign Minister was quite clear on it when he appeared for vetting. And so I think in deepening these germane issues, one of the best things we have done is not to leave this only to the country that is responsible for this, machine, but also seeking additional experts, advice. Now, mind you, this thing has brought cracks in this country, and it will take a very long time for us to get over this.
Right.
This is a disaster that has brought the NPP and the NDC, who have for months been at each other's neck together, and for almost a week, there was more or less an armistice between the two parties.
Right.
All because we were suffering from a loss which shook the very foundations of this country. And so I would think that in pursuance of the Constitution itself, what it directs every government to do with respect to a foreign policy, and also in ensuring that there's accountability for whatever occurred. As of now, we don't know what happened. We are hearing reports that they lost the lost track of it, of the flight itself, some 14 minutes into the flight. We are hearing from some other...
it was off the radar.
14 minutes into the flight. We are hearing from other, quarters that, in fact, they go to Obuasi, they made 3 stops, they couldn't land. In fact, we are told by the KMA boss and some other...
so the narratives contradict.
Yes. And so the only way to bring finality to this and to hold accountable if anybody was negligent is to ensure that all portions of the story are brought to light. And we can do that by seeking the expert advice of the persons involved in the flight itself, in the black box, and also seeking additional advice in ensuring that whether it was complicity, whether it was a plot on the government's machinery, because we are told that the president and other high-ranking officers were able to attend, barring a last-minute pullout. And so, what led to this? Was it, and why was the pilot even flying below the level we are told? I mean, there are so many questions that every, discerning person in Ghana has. And we've been so hit by this thing, it will take a lot of time for us to heal. The least we need now is that closure, not only for the persons who are directly affected by this, but there are people like us and you and Reuben and all
the people of Ghana deserve
who need
to know.
closure in knowing that whatever accounted for this is something we know of, and it's something that is never going to occur again. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I would plead that when the findings are out, the least they can do is to at least bring the portions that will not affect the security of the country, make it known so that we all can, get the closure that we've been demanding since the day of the accident.
I think the people of Ghana deserve that closure. So you are rightly spot on when it comes to that. Like I mentioned, again, this will be looked at from a technical expertise and credibility point of view. We'll also look at it from a perceived bias concern. And we'll also look at strategic alignment. And we will therefore break it down just to make sure. Because I remember very well, it's stated clear in here when it comes to why Ghana decided. That is not to say, well, let me not just ask a question and answer it myself, but I'm just carrying the reflections of the people along, especially when it comes to seeking your, expertise from where you stand or where you are coming from. Reuben, is that to say that the Chinese doesn't have what it takes to actually give us what we want, the result that we want?
They do. But from what I say, I think our decision to engage the Americans was purely technical. Because we know that when it comes to aviation forensic analysis, you cannot rule out the United States of America. They have an enviable record with regards to that particular area. And you can cite the National Safety Transportation Board that has handled some of these peculiar situations, and which is what guided the government of the day to seek the expertise of the Americans. But that is also not to rule China out completely. But before I proceed with my submission, I think there is one clarification I would quickly want to make. I mean, in the aftermath of this tragedy, which rendered the entire nation heartbroken and spiritless, I mean, there were reports that the Z9 helicopters, 4 of them in all, were gifted to Ghana.
Okay.
That information is false and misleading.
Okay.
What we know is that we contracted a loan from China.
I'm happy you are clarifying this.
Yes, in 2011, the China Bank Development Loan. So we used $3 billion out of that to procure these 4 Z9 helicopters. So they were not donations or gifts from China to the government and the people of Ghana.
As speculated
out there. So I quickly want to address that. I am happy that we'll bring finality to this issue because it looks like there are more questions than answers.
Right.
I mean, right from takeoff, they wanted to land elsewhere, and after 3 unsuccessful attempts, the chopper, we are told, crashed, and all the 8 persons on board perished. So the government of the day quickly had to find a solution. And in order to clear the air over some of these so-called conspiracy theories, it's good that you engage international experts. And if we turn to the United States of America, it does not necessarily imply that we've ignored China, because strategically, we have people we forge ties with. And in our foreign policy mantra, we are friends to all and enemies to none. I believe that per what we are gathering, once the investigations get underway, demanding this complexity, we may look for more external people to come on board. So let's wait for the outcome of the analysis by the forensic specialist. And I think that once we bring finality to the matter, portions which will be made public would be out there for all to see. And portions of which are not for public consumption would be strictly adhered to, so that we will not end up thoughtlessly adding pain to the families of the people who perished, or the 8 departed compatriots.
So what you are saying is that the decision is a more technical one than political.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now, let's talk about, when you talk about to avoid any kind of bias, is that to say that if this were to be given to the Chinese to handle, there was going to be, or the tendency of compromising findings was pretty much great? Like, is that what it is?
Well, I think what Ghana seeks to do here is to ensure that there are no loose ends. And I think we all know the might of China, their prowess when it comes to these things. I think what they're seeking to do is to ensure that whatever report comes for China, it can be verifiable from another source.
Okay.
So that closure that we seek, we know that it's final.
Right.
We wouldn't want that to come out and there are still other questions left unanswered. So I think in doing this, it has nothing to do with the fact that China may be inferior to the US.
Right.
I don't think that's the issue.
I'm happy you are clearing that
I think
too.
we are doing that so
Right.
that because even if you seek, for example, if you go for a DNA, sometimes you're even told to go to another so that you can
confirm the report.
Yes. And so I think we're only doing that so that where there's a comparative analysis of the two reports, their respective results will give us the closure we need. And so I would think from where I said that it is not because of any other thing, but purely because we need closure, and we can only do so when there is a verifiable report as to what happened to the scene.
Do you think this could raise broader concerns among other African nations using Chinese-made aircraft, potentially impacting China's defense exports? Like, I want to know, like, trust in Chinese aerospace products.
It depends on how you handle it. Because now the US and China would want to make inroads in Africa. And don't forget that some countries have aligned themselves with the US in terms of military intelligence. And when it comes to that, you can cite Africa. Others have also aligned with China, and some even with Russia. So when it comes to issues of this matter, it depends on how you handle it, so that you do so tactfully, you tread cautiously, so that there wouldn't be what I call a diplomatic standoff between these two global powers, because you are supposed to deal with them and make sure that whatever you capitalize on will be of mutual benefit to your country,
Right.
and you equally also take what they also give in return.
When I asked a friend of mine who is in the international space that if this actually is a breach of trust, or confidence in China, and he said, no, it's not automatic. However, sensitive diplomacy is required here. So it depends on how, like again, as he said, how we handle the approach really, really matters. Now, going forward, what I want to know is, does this really harm China-Ghana relations in any way?
I don't think so. I don't think that the dealing is even with the government itself. I think the dealing is with the firm that did it. So I don't think it's even a political matter.
Right.
And so I don't really think it becomes an issue that gets to that level. It only becomes an issue when it was a bilateral agreement directly between the two countries, and then even on that level, I don't think it gets to that point. You're right. It may lead to some persons, of course, some persons may raise concerns, but I don't think it gets to that level, because it's not a bilateral agreement.
Okay.
It is just we procured something from China. That thing has led to an accident that has claimed lives, and so the government is seeking answers from the firm that did it. And in doing so, we are also sourcing other views from other bodies so that we can verify whatever they give us to ensure that whatever they are giving us is indeed what happened to the Xena. And so I don't think it gets to that level.
Has this caused any division when it comes to the political parties here? And I'm talking about the opposition
MPP
and, of course, the MPP and DC in Parliament. You are stationed in Parliament. Has this really come up on the floor?
Thus far, I've not heard anything of that sort, probably because the House is on recess, and so it didn't get on the floor. But I think the broader consensus from the parties themselves and the Ghanaian people is that we want closure. And so if this is the path the government wants to go in bringing us that closure, I'm sure all of them can rally here. And by mere fact that we've not heard anything from the opposing party as to whether or not they agree with this move shows that, they also consent in a way to the moves that the government is making to ensure that we find out what happened.
Finally, do you think the move actually reflects deeper trust in Western institutions or a shift in alignment, some kind?
It could be either of the two.
Okay.
A shift in alignment because Ghana wants to be at the epicenter of global diplomacy. But sometimes when you are engaged in this sort of area, you need to tread cautiously. And I don't think that we should narrow this discussion to questions over Ghana's aviation airspace. I mean, I see it going beyond what we are seeing now, because even as I speak, our presidential jet is grounded in France, and we don't know whether we have a serviceable and airworthy presidential jet. So it's a broader issue altogether. I believe that once we are able to shift our attention from this helicopter crash, I mean, there will be some further developments which we can equally pay critical attention to.
Can the Chinese be invited as observers in all of this?
Oh, why not? Because, like I rightly alluded to, it was purchased from a Chinese firm, Katek. You know, it was a defense contraction firm. So once the investigations get underway, I mean, they can also come on board and share their expertise with us.